Welcome, welcome. I am so glad you are here. Welcome to the Two-Sided Truth podcast. I am your host, Lisa Tracy. And man, I just have to say, whoo, I just want to give a shout out to all of the podcasters out there. Oh my goodness. I had no idea how crazy and how hard and treacherous it was to host a podcast. So kudos to you. But thank you so much for joining the Two-Sided Truth podcast, where we debate it, we defend it, and then you decide. A podcast where the facts are presented and you decide the winner. Our sponsors for this evening's podcast is the Flipside with Lisa Tracy and Shy High Apparel. I'm excited that you have decided to join us this evening. Tonight, we have two debaters with opposing views debating the topic of birthright citizenship. Arguing in opposition against birthright citizenship is Donald Conley. And we also have arguing in the affirmative tonight would be for birthright citizenship would be Jose Rodriguez. And before I have them to introduce themselves, here are the rules of engagement. For tonight's debate, we have four subtopics that Jose and Mr. Conley are debating. Each subtopic is about 6 minutes long. And for each subtopic, the debaters will lay out their argument and then they will have a chance to respond before moving on to the next topic. I will engage and moderate the discussion. So they're laying out the facts. And like I told them at the head of time, it's okay to, have emotions. It's okay to be passionate, but we definitely want to be respectful. So, to our listening audience, you are able to participate by voting. We are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. However, you can only cast your vote on the two-sidedtruth.com, the two-sidedtruth.com. So, at the end of this debate, we will have a winner because you would have voted. Our winners of the debate will be able to choose a gift certificate from either the Flipside with Lisa Tracy or Shy High Apparel. So let's begin. Before we move on with the debate, I want the debaters to introduce themselves. So I'm going to bring them on camera. There's Donald. And there is Jose. So before we get started, I would like for each of them to introduce themselves. And we'll start off with Mr. Conley.
Okay, no problem. My name is Don Conley. I am married, father of one son. I'm an IT professional, but I also referee high school sports on the side.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Donald Conley. I appreciate that. All right, Jose Rodriguez.
I'm Jose Rodriguez, retired police lieutenant, former crime prevention specialist, married 31 years, 4 children, 4 grandchildren. I too referee high school basketball. And I'm more than happy to be here. I think that something like this is long overdue.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jose, for that.
Mm.
So again, I just want to reiterate, again, we're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, but in order to vote tonight, you must come to this two-sidedtruth.com to vote on who laid out their facts and who was the best debater. So with that being said, the first question, the first topic of tonight is just kind of laying out the framework here. Tonight's debate isn't just about immigration, it's about constitutional meaning, national identity, and whether rights are fixed or flexible. Is birthright citizenship a non negotiable constitutional guarantee
Mm-hmm.
or a policy choice the country has outgrown? So, arguing in the affirmative, I am going to go ahead and allow Jose Rodriguez to lay out his argument.
Thank you, Lisa. Well, I think the main topic of whether birthright citizenship is a constitutional right or just a policy in need of reform is not much of a debate. It quite simply is. It quite simply is enshrined in the Constitution, in Section 1 of the 14th Amendment, and has been upheld in Supreme Court precedent about 30 years after it was first introduced into the Constitution with the Wong Kim Ark court case of 1896, I believe it was. The language of the amendment is unambiguous. It is pretty straightforward. It says that all persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens. And it is just unquestionably a right. In fact, it's what's called a self-executing right, meaning that it doesn't need any additional support from Congress, any additional laws or anything of that sort to give it any more teeth. It just in and of itself is a right, and it's unquestionable.
Okay. That's your opening argument? Awesome. Thank you. All right, Donald.
Yes.
We're going to allow you to lay out your opening argument.
Oh, sure. My position is that birthright citizenship, as outlined in the 14th Amendment, I believe that it wasn't intended for children of non-citizens or undocumented immigrants. I believe it does lay out, it does say that when it was ratified, it was intended to clarify that people who were born on U.S. soil would be citizens, but it also excluded some people, and it excluded diplomats, because diplomats have a unique status in that their allegiance is not to the United States, but to a foreign country. And that status also applies to their children. So if you're a child of a diplomat and you're born on the United States soil, you do not automatically become a U.S. citizen. I believe that you don't automatically become a U.S. citizen just because you're born in the United States, based on a clause in the 14th Amendment that states that the person that's born in the United States is to be subject to the jurisdiction thereof. The framers of the Constitution, when they said that the person who was subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, it involved more than just mere physical appearance. Like I said, again, like I said before, it also included or inferred allegiance. And so a child born to illegal immigrants on United States soil, their allegiance can't be, I guess, determined superficially. Their allegiance is basically their parents' allegiance. And the reason why I say that is because where the parents go, the child goes, and where the child goes, the parent goes. So if the parents decide that they want to be atheists, well, guess what? That's what they bring their child up in. If the parents decide that they have more allegiance to their foreign country than they do to the United States, that's something they also confer onto that child. So that particular part of the 14th Amendment, which states subject to the jurisdiction thereof, I think that's very important, because it does not grant automatic citizenship to children of illegal immigrants. I mean, or tourists, anchor babies who remain under their home country's jurisdiction. If your parents are under your home country's jurisdiction, then again, where they go, that's where you go. When they go back to their home country, it's not like the baby can say, well, you know what? I think I'll stay. See your parents. No, the children go with the parents
Okay.
because that's where their ultimate allegiance is with. Their ultimate allegiance is with their parents. They have
Oh,
no citizenship anywhere
okay.
at that point. I mean, at least not in the United States.
Okay. Thank you. Time for that. All
Mhm.
right. Jose, would you like to rebut anything that Donald has laid down?
Yes. Well, Donald made a good point in bringing up what persons are excluded under the 14th Amendment. And he specifically referred to um, people who are ambassadors, people who have their allegiance to other countries. So if you're an ambassador visiting the United States, you have diplomatic immunity. Your children, if one of those ambassadors happens to be here with a spouse, the spouse gives birth to a child while on U.S. soil, that child does not have the rights that are granted by the 14th. And there's a very specific reason for that. And Donald slightly touched on that when he said, under the jurisdiction thereof. Diplomats are not under U.S. jurisdiction for any laws. They have diplomatic immunity. They can't be given a traffic ticket for running a red light. They can't be arrested for any minor offenses or anything like that. They are not subject to the jurisdictions thereof that's outlined in the 14th Amendment. So while Donald brings up good points, those points militate against the argument that he's trying to make.
Okay. Thank you for that, Jose. Donald, would you like to rebut?
Yes. One of the things that Jose said that it was that the 14th Amendment was unquestioned, clear, and unambiguous. But when you introduce into this conversation, the idea of diplomats, you kind of it's not as clear cut as it appears. So because the diplomats have no allegiance to the United States, well, then guess what? The same thing can apply to a couple of people who are here illegally. They have no allegiance to the United States either. I think that the law has to be reformed and clarified because right now you can have a foreign government attempt to unduly influence the United States by sending their citizens here to give birth and then go back to their home country. And now they bring those children back, and those children can be used in the future to unduly and unfavorably influence our elections and our laws. So that's, to me, that militates against the idea that you should be a citizen automatically as long as you're born here, because your allegiance is actually to your parents. The child has no allegiance to the United States. All they have is a physical presence, and a physical presence in and of itself does not convey citizenship. It is when you go through the process. The children haven't gone through the process. The times and the situation that we find ourselves in has changed. So even if you can say, well, you know what, you're born here, you're a citizen. Well, okay, I'll even grant you that. But at some point, all of the amendments and all have to be clarified and ruled on by lower courts, and they are. Either they're ruled on and they're clarified by lower courts, or they're simply overturned, and then a better amendment is introduced, like the amendment against the prohibition of alcohol. Well, there was really no way to amend that to a point where it was acceptable, so they immediately they rescinded that. They repealed that amendment. And personally, I think this amendment needs to be repealed and reintroduced in a better form, because the form it's in now, it actually does us a disservice, in my opinion.
Okay. So
Um,
I have a question.
Yes.
If the framers intended exceptions, why didn't they explicitly list them?
If they intended what?
they are.
Exceptions. Why
Exception.
didn't they explicitly list them?
Because you can't, in the time that you bring that amendment to bear, you can't think of all the different thousands of different scenarios that the United States may find itself in.
But that
So
was
yes.
discussed. I beg to differ. That was discussed during the floor debates of 1866, both in the House and in the Senate.
Yeah,
And
I
they did
agree. It
specifically
was talked about.
outline. They did
Mhm.
specifically outline that diplomats are not included, and the reason why they're not included is not a matter of allegiance. We got to remember that the Constitution is a legal document, and in all legal documents, wording matters. And the words that they chose were very specific, and they quite specifically chose
Mhm.
not allegiance, but subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Every one of us are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States government, both federally, locally, and at the state level. And that includes immigrants, that includes tourists. It does not include diplomats. So those things were already considered, both in the
Okay.
House debates and in the Senate debates in 1866. And the original bill that was introduced by John Bingham in 1866, February of 1866, wasn't worded that way. It wasn't until it got into the Senate and Senator Lyman Trumbull changed the wording, and it was changed to all persons rather than giving Congress the ability to decide who and who wouldn't have citizenship and then impose that onto the states. It removed all of that ambiguity and put it quite simply and in black and white and unambiguous that all persons born or naturalized would be citizens. And then it wasn't Trumbull. I think it was Wade, Senator Wade, that may have added the language of being subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So it has nothing to do with allegiance. No matter what our opinions are, no matter how much we may want things to change, at the end of the day, it is a legal precedent. It has been challenged by the lower courts. It was challenged in the Wong Kim Art case
Yep.
1896, and the Supreme Court made it quite clear that it did include immigrants. They even specifically said Chinese immigrants, and the children born to what did they call them? I'm drawing a blank here. Oh, to the gypsies. They called them gypsies, the people that were immigrants from other nations, not specifically from Asia.
Okay, last question before we move on to the debate, to the next topic.
Mhm.
This is a question for Jose, and then Donald, you'll have a chance to rebut.
Mhm.
Are we debating constitutional clarity or political discomfort with modern outcomes?
I think that's a great question because I think we're doing both. I am trying to stick quite clearly to the Constitution. It's clear language. It's specifically chosen wording, and Donald seems to be voicing his discomfort with how things have changed over time, which is quite natural because with time comes change. And that discomfort doesn't supersede what the Constitution says. And if we want to enact any change, just like the example that Donald gave with prohibition, that had to be changed with another amendment. It's not something that we can make a change via partisan political policy, through just Congress acting on its own, through a court decision. It has to be a constitutional amendment. It's going to require 2/3 vote of the House, 2/3 vote of the Senate. It's going to require, I believe, 3/4 of the electorate of of the number of states in the country. So 3/4 of the 50 states have to make constitutional amendments for it to enact that change. It's not as simple as we don't like what it says now, so we want to change it through policy or through executive order, which is what they're trying to do now.
Thank you, Jose. I do want to reiterate, this topic will be closing. If you are interested in debating who laid their facts out, the best, please go to the twosidedtruth.com, cast your vote there, the twosidedtruth.com. Donald, you have the last comment, and then we're moving to our next subtopic.
Okay, no problem. The framers of this 14th Amendment, specifically Jacob Howard of Michigan, explicitly stated that its purpose was to overturn the 1857 Dred Scott versus Sanford decision, which secured citizenship for enslaved people, for Black folks. During the debates, members of Congress made it clear that the citizenship clause was directed at a specific population that was physically present, legally domiciled, and whose allegiance lay with the United States. This is what they were talking about. And indeed, like contemporaneous congressional records suggest that the lawmakers did not want their efforts to be hijacked to grant sweeping citizenship rights to just anyone who managed to be born on the United States soil. In fact, Senator Howard, if I'm not mistaken, he said this will, and just to be sure that I'm quoting him specifically, he said this will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners or who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers. He said, again, this will, of course, not include persons born in the United States who are foreigners. So I think the intent was not to just throw in citizenship at anybody. These records seem to infer that the subject to jurisdiction clause was not to be interpreted broadly, of course, because they included the provisions about the diplomats, but it was also included in these discussions. They included the parents of children, the children whose parents did not owe an allegiance to the United States and had no intention of becoming lawful members of American society. So if the parents didn't have an intention to become lawful members of American society, then that means that the children were not intended to be lawful members of American society. The argument was that the children born to undocumented immigrants whose parents didn't enter this country legally with the intent of becoming lawful members of American society should be granted birthright citizenship. Now, was this included in the language of the amendment? No, but I'm arguing intent. That's what I'm arguing, intent.
Thank you, Donald.
That's it. Okay.
Thank you so much. Okay. The voting for this topic is closed. We'll be closing in a matter of 10 seconds. The next subtopic that we will be discussing is historical intent versus modern reality. Was birthright citizenship created specifically for formerly enslaved people, and does that original purpose still apply today? Donald, I am going to grace you with the floor in regards to this subtopic. Go.
Yeah, just as I touched on before, the intent of this amendment was to grant citizenship to formerly enslaved people who were being oppressed and denied so many rights as American citizens. Again, during their debates, they were they were specific in that the citizenship was to be granted to people who were physically present, legally domiciled. It's hard for a person who is not here legally to be legally domiciled and whose allegiance lay with the United States. A baby's allegiance, if you can call it that, lies with their parents. And wherever their parents' allegiance lies, that's where their allegiance lies. So is that the purpose today? Broadly, yes. But because of decisions by the United States Supreme Court over the years, I believe they have expanded it to include anybody born on United States soil, which is, to me, is unfortunate, because when they did do that, we didn't have the amount of illegal immigration that we have now. And so I think if you brought the original framers and if you resurrected them and you brought them back here today, I think they'd be like, no, we didn't intend for a country out there to send 10 million people into the United States and overrun us with birthright citizenship. I don't think that was their intent.
Okay, thank you. Before Jose goes to rebut this, I do want to say that tonight's broadcast is sponsored by the Flipside with Lisa Tracy and Shy High Apparel. Thank you so much. You have the floor, Jose.
All right. So was it created specifically for the purpose of the formerly enslaved and their descendants? The original bill, yes. The final draft and what ended up being ratified as the Section 1 of the 14th Amendment, short answer, no. As a matter of fact, Senator Lyman was asked if this would include the children of immigrants, and he gave a one-word answer, and that answer was undoubtedly. And that was challenged again in the Wong Kim Art case of 1896, and the judge's name was Horace Grant, Supreme Court Justice Horace Grant, said that if it wasn't to include the children of immigrants, then we would be creating a class of people who had no allegiance and no citizenship to either this country or any other country, because we would be in effect saying where you were born has nothing to do with your citizenship. And Supreme Court Justice Grant said specifically the opposite. Additionally, Donald brought up, the mass immigration that we've been seeing over the last few decades and allegiance. Well, if he's questioning the allegiance, then wouldn't it be logical for us to argue that those people voluntarily left their countries of origin? If we're using the southern border, then we would say from Mexico and all the countries south of Mexico, they left their countries of origin to come here to make better lives for themselves and their children. I think it's easy to argue that their allegiance is where they can make a better life. I think it's easy to argue that any of us put in that same situation, wherever we go, that we can build a better life for ourselves and our children, that place would have our allegiance. So if the concern is allegiance, which is not in the Constitution, but if that's the concern, and I'm granting that, well, I think that concern is more than swayed, because our allegiance would be wherever we can build a good life.
Okay. Thank you for that, Jose. Donald, would you like to rebut?
Oh, sure. When you leave your country of allegiance, the country that you were born in, and you come to another country, you are obligated to enter that country legally. Um, and if you have children in that country, that because birthright citizenship doesn't apply everywhere. Well, you know what? Perhaps you should enter that country legally and become citizens. Then your child becomes a citizen also. So if your allegiance is truly to the country that you travel to, you will travel there legally. You will enter that country legally. If you want to enter as a refugee, you apply through refugee status. And that refugee status actually has to be genuine. You can't just say I'm a refugee because I don't like the food in the country I just left. No, there has to be a legitimate reason. So yeah, if you want to come here and you want to pledge your allegiance to the United States, fine. Go through the legal channels. Go through the legal channels, become a citizen, have your baby. Or even go through the legal channel, bring your children here, go through the legal channels, and now not only do you become a citizen, but your children become citizens. That's the answer to the allegiance question. That's it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Donald makes a great argument if we're talking policy. If we're talking political policy, fantastic argument. But we're talking the Constitution. Constitution doesn't say any of that at all. Not one word of that.
Mm-hmm.
It quite simply says, if you're born here or if you're naturalized here, you are a citizen.
Yeah, that's true. But we also need to look at intent, because it was intended for enslaved people. I mean, we can't just toss that out into the garbage and say,
yes, the original bill.
We cannot
yes.
toss that in the garbage.
Yes, the original bill, as introduced by John Bingham in February of 1866. Yes, that's exactly what it was. But by the time it was ratified to the 14th, as we know it today, later in 1866, it no longer included that language and included the language of born here, naturalized here, you're a citizen, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. Polling will be closing for this subtopic and very soon. Question for Donald.
Yes.
If the original intent matters, who gets to decide when the context has changed enough to justify a reform?
Who gets to decide?
Yes.
I think cultural situations, national interests. For example, when there was a prohibition against alcohol, well, number one, personally, I don't think they should have did that. But when it got to the point where the cost to society was too heavy a burden to bear, the cost of actually enforcing that amendment was too much to bear. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze. The same thing applies to the amendment freeing the slaves. I think there's a societal pressure, but I also think there's a moral pressure, and there's also a national interest, because this amendment is being used in ways that it was never intended to be used. Again, if you took those framers and you brought them here and you said, okay, what do you think of how the 14th Amendment is being used? They say, well, we didn't mean for it to be used to just bring 11 million people and dilute the society, American society. We didn't intend it for that. We intended it for the slaves, and we intended it for the people who come here and who intend to be American citizens. We didn't intend for it to be used as an invasion tactic, and that's what it's been used as. It's like inviting people into your house and They originally they come, they say, hey, we just need something to eat, and then they get there to eat all your food. You still want them to come, you just don't want them to eat all your food. So now you got to amend the rules, and I think that's what's happening now. That's
Thank
it.
you, Donald.
Hmm.
All right, Jose, you can answer that question, but I have a different question for you. If birthright citizenship was born out of racial exclusion, does restricting it today risk repeating that history?
Say that again.
If birthright citizenship was born out of racial exclusion, does restricting it today risk repeating that history?
The exclusion
Yes.
does it? Yeah. If we do it the way Donald believes it should be done, then it's doing exactly what the 14th against the 14th was first ratified for it to begin with. We have the 14th because of the racial exclusion that was going on, which leads me to rebutting what Donald was saying, because the irony of what he said about the diluting of American society. That argument was made during those debates. You know who was making that argument? The Confederates. They were saying that the slaves, if they were given equal standing as white Americans, that they would dilute what America was supposed to be. So Donald is making the arguments that the slaveholders was making.
I
Donald, would you
don't
like to
take
rebut?
slaveholders seriously. What
You
they
may
think,
not.
what they want means nothing to me.
You may not, but you're still making their argument.
Well, slave owners also wore pants. Does that mean I agree with everything they say? No.
No, but you're
I,
agreeing
I
with their
I'll
argument by
agree
making the
if
same
they say 2
argument.
+ 2 is 4. I say, yeah, you're right. So what? So what if they're making that argument? They're making it out of the evil in their hearts. They don't intend anything good for people. I do.
And the
These
14th
people that
was to
come here,
combat, and the 14th was enacted to combat that evil.
yeah, okay.
Well, good, and we're in agreement there.
Actually, no, but let's move on.
All right. This subtopic will be closing soon. If you would like to vote in this subtopic, please go to the2sidedtruth.com, the2sidedtruth.com. All right. Last question before we move on. Can a law be morally correct in origin but flawed in modern application? Donald?
Can a law be morally correct in its? Can you repeat that?
Sure. Can a law be morally correct in origin but flawed in modern application?
Oh, of course, of course. The framers of the Constitution, especially when they made allowances for that. That's why the Constitution is so much better than any document in any country, because it is in a way elastic. So the legislators who legislated the prohibition of alcohol, I'm sure they had very good intentions. They had very good intentions because they saw a lot of alcoholism, a lot of alcohol related deaths and accidents. They did that with good intentions in the origins, but when it played out in life, it was actually, it didn't play out too well. And so they had to change. No, they didn't change it, because by the time they changed it, most of them had died. So we had to have a new crew to come along and say, hey, this thing ain't working. And alcohol, if taken in moderation, is not dangerous. It's only when you abuse it. And so they changed it. So no. Do I think most laws are enacted with good intentions morally. It's just that when they're played out, sometimes when they're played out, you have to make modifications or repeal it altogether.
Okay. Thank you so much. All
Yeah.
right. This poll will be closing in a matter of 5 seconds. Next
Hmm.
subtopic, immigration incentives. Does birthright citizenship encourage illegal immigration and so-called anchor babies, or is that claim overstated? And we are going to start the next topic. And I believe, Jose, you went first with the last topic, correct?
I went first on the first topic. Donald went
Okay.
first on the last one.
All right. So we are going to switch it and allow you to go first.
Okay. I would say that there are a number of factors that incentivize illegal immigration. Um, is birthright citizenship one of them? I guess it can be argued that, yeah, that's one of the incentives. But I think it's a little bit of a straw man to try and say that that is the incentive. And I say that for a few reasons. One, it that argument moves us away from the central topic of whether or not birthright citizenship is a constitutional right rather than a policy. It's a constitutional right. It has nothing to do with political policy. And besides that, if we're going to argue that we don't like birthright citizenship because it may incentivize illegal immigration, then we have to apply that standard across the board. And then it would be like arguing that we should do away with the Fourth Amendment because that incentivizes a criminal to hide incriminating evidence against himself. Or we should do away with the Second Amendment because even a legal gun owner might commit a mass shooting because they have the right to bear arms. Ridiculous on its face. And saying that about birthright citizenship, also ridiculous on its face. On top of that, if we're going to use the pejorative of anchor babies, which is very much just a xenophobic dog whistle, we have to keep in mind that children born here to undocumented immigrant parents, those children cannot sponsor their parents for citizenship. If those parents are facing deportations, as we see right now with the ICE raids that are going on right now, those parents still get deported. Those children being born here and being legal citizens do not prevent their parents from being deported. So there is, it does not, this idea of it being an incentive as if it's a loophole is ridiculous on its face because it doesn't provide any legal status, any legal protection for their parents at all. It only provides legal protection for the citizen, which is the child. That's it.
Hmm.
Thank you, Jose. Donald?
Okay. Well, this is interesting. Um, there really is no official U.S. government count of anchor babies or children born in the U.S. to foreign nationals, also known as birth tourism. There's no specific number. So we really don't know an exact count. Um, However, based on estimates from the Center for Immigration Studies, or CIS, they estimate that about 36,000 birth tourists from around the world come into the United States, and they give birth. And that was between 2016 and the start of the pandemic, because you remember when at the start of the pandemic, I think that was 2020, immigration, immigration was cut. At least overseas, it was cut. It was stopped. Unfortunately, that didn't stop the invasion from the South. Now, at the peak of this trend, particularly in 2016 and 2017, some reports suggest that illegal confinement centers or even birth hotels where Chinese mothers gave birth in California hospitals. During this time period, tens of thousands of babies were born to foreign Chinese nationals. But since then, since COVID began, and even up until now, the trend has gone down because number one, we began raiding a lot of these hotels, and and driven down the number of what you call anchor babies. Now, personally, I don't consider anchor babies to be a pejorative term because that's what these people are trying to do. Just like I don't consider illegal immigrants a pejorative term or something that's incorrect, because that language is written into the law. I believe that a lot of countries use this against us, and because they do that, that's one of the reasons for illegal immigration is anchor babies. The other one is because the country that they come from, the economic conditions are horrible, and so they want to come to the United States. But I'm going to emphasize this even more right now. Come legally. I don't care if you come here to have your child, but come here and apply for citizenship. That's what I'm saying. Now, if you come here and you're pregnant already, well, now we have to determine what we're going to do with you. But if you come here for the explicit purpose of giving birth and then moving back to your country and then having a child with dual citizenship, and to me, you intend to do us a disservice or do us harm, because you're not doing that because you have allegiance to America, come here, have a child, and then go back. You're not doing that out of allegiance. You're doing that out of some political trickery, no matter where you come from. So it's the intent of your heart. If you want to come here legally, have your baby legally. Now you and your children are citizens. But the other thing is this: if you come here, let's say we do this whole birthright citizenship. Okay, fine. Your child is a citizen. Okay, now you gotta leave. Are you gonna take the child with you, or are you gonna leave him here so that we can raise him? If you take that child with you, then guess what? Their citizenship goes with them. If your intentions are purely, above board, then that child goes with you back to your foreign country. Now, if y'all come back, now you come back through legal channels, and all of you become citizens. But any other way, you up to some stuff, man. No, stay over there.
Okay. All right. Jose, you want to rebut?
Yeah, there was a number of things. Donald brought up COVID, and if I understood him correctly, he said that illegal immigration during the height of COVID dropped considerably, except for at the southern border. Not true. It dropped everywhere. The numbers are clear. As a matter of fact, that's part of that was something 42 that the Supreme Court overturned after COVID was lifted, but which basically didn't apply to illegal immigration anyway, which people mistakenly think that it did. It only applied to those that were seeking refugee status here, and they had to basically remain on the other side of the border. But those conditions of COVID dropped immigration, legal or otherwise, all over the planet.
I agree.
So, but that still doesn't speak to the point of the constitutionality of birthright citizenship. And then Donald also mentioned dual citizenship. If a child is born here to undocumented parents, that child is a citizen of the United States. They don't have dual citizenship. The reason why they don't have dual citizenship is because, contrary to what Donald Trump keeps telling everybody, we are not the only country that practices birthright citizenship. In the Western Hemisphere, which we are a part of, it's almost common practice for either unencumbered or completely unencumbered or nearly unencumbered birthright citizenship in the Western Hemisphere. In
Okay.
total, there's more than 30 countries across the planet that offer some form of birthright citizenship.
Okay.
So it has nothing to do with dual citizenship. Again, Donald is arguing his personal opinions, his feelings. He's not arguing the actual law.
Okay.
And then on top of it, he seems to be wanting to create a second-class citizenship for these people, saying that if you're born here and your parents happen to take you back to their country of origin, you have to lose your citizenship.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But
Yes.
but that's creating a
lose it.
second-class citizenship.
No,
Not in line with what the Constitution says. Again, we are going with the world according to Donald, not the world according to the Constitution.
Okay, let me interject. Are countries that restrict birthright citizenship less democratic or simply more controlled? Either of you can take that question. And before you do, if you want to vote in this subtopic, you must go to the twosidedtruth.com. The twosidedtruth.com. Thank you.
I think they're just, I mean, Democrat or not, but I think they're more restrictive. They're more picky with what they do. But you know what? You're right. You're right when you say they don't have dual citizenship. Will they be second-class citizens? No, because they'll be back in their home country, back with their parents. Again, if you want to have a child here, fine. Make him or her a citizen. You and your mom, your mother and your father will be illegal. They can go. And when they go, you can leave them here. We'll raise them. We'll raise them as an American citizen. If you want to go back, go back. But I would suggest you take your child with you.
Okay. I don't I'm not sure how directly that answered your question.
Oh no, it didn't.
But
It didn't.
but to your question, Lisa, I guess that would be dependent, one, on what country we're talking about. Two, what form of government they do already have. Again, if we're talking about most of the countries in the Western Hemisphere, so North America, South America, Central America, most of those countries are some form of a democracy. So yeah, do they have different restrictions than what we do? Sure. Some less restrictive, some more restrictive. So again, it depends on which country that you're talking about and how you're defining the particular democracy.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. So we are moving on to the last subtopic of the evening. It is, how do other countries handle citizenship at birth? And should the U.S. follow suit or remain unique? So with that said, Donald, it is your turn.
Okay. One writer has written that because only 30 other countries offer birthright citizenship, that makes America an anomaly. Okay. I believe that we enact because we're a unique republic, we enact our laws based on what's good for us. And we do it not thinking, okay, well, what will France think? Actually, I don't think we should care what France thinks or what England thinks. I think we should do what's right for us because it's right for us, not because it's right in the eyes of the world, because 90% of the world hates us anyway. So, they may as well hate us with a cape on and just be super haters, because we just gonna do what we want to do. And I have no problem with us doing that. Should we follow suit with these other countries? No, we should do what's right for us. If it means changing the birthright citizenship, repealing it or reforming it, sure. But wait, I'm venturing off of your question. Your question was, should the U.S. follow suit or remain unique? Oh man, we just got to remain unique. A lot of these countries out here, they are so screwed up. I mean, they are so screwed up. Some of them are starting to come around, but I don't think we should be following after the Chinese or Russia or anybody like that. We should follow after, because they're doing what's right for them. And if a lot of them do the same thing, fine. If we happen to do the same thing that they're doing, fine. But we have to think about our interests above theirs. That's it.
Thank you. Jose, you have the floor.
Um, I don't know who it was that Donald might be referring to when he said that the U.S. is an anomaly, or what that meant. I don't know how we're an anomaly. If we're talking about how it pertains to whether or not we should be unique in how we do birthright citizenship, we're definitely not an anomaly, especially since we are one of 30 other countries who do engage in birthright citizenship. So we're definitely not an anomaly. We are not unique.
Okay. All right.
All countries base their laws on what's right for them. So us doing the same, again, that doesn't make us unique. We're doing what other countries do. Base our laws just like they base their laws on what's best for their interest and their citizenry. So again, we're not unique. Where we might be unique, where we might be able to argue that we're unique, is that in what we've always historically said were our stated ideals, our stated goals, in that we might be in an outlier where we, from our inception, said that our commitment was to equality and not to be identified by our ancestry. Jefferson himself wrote, and we all know these words, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Immigrants, undocumented or otherwise, are like our very own founding fathers. They left their homeland just like our very own founding fathers did, in the hopes that their descendants, the immigrants, just like our founding fathers, hope that they can create a better life for their children. So they can pursue that happiness the same way, with the same equality and the same equal footing as any other American citizen. That is what makes the United States unique. In our stated goals, have we lived up to them? No, not hardly. But pushing towards what Donald is saying, we're pushing further away from what we said our stated goals were from our inception. So if we want to live up to where we say we're unique, where we like to hear that American exceptionalism, we want to be exceptional, we want to be unique. Let's be unique in that way. Let's be unique in the way where we stand apart because we strive for that equality. We strive for that freedom that we said that we did at our founding.
Thank you, Jose. Jose, question for you. So
Yes.
if other nations can restrict citizenship without undermining democracy, why can't the United States?
We do. We already do. We have libraries full of laws regarding our citizenship, how to apply for citizenship, how to apply for refugee status. The system is quite broken and has been for many decades because we've made it so cumbersome. We don't streamline it. And I think in large part that's due to this broken system is good for business. It's good for major corporations. Because once upon a time, within my lifetime, we didn't have that much of the quote illegal immigrant problem because we had migrant workers that either on a daily, weekly, monthly basis or seasonal basis would come across the border, work seasonally, take their happy butts back across the border to their homes. And then right around the 80s, when Reagan became president, all of that started to change because it was better for business to keep a problem going rather than having the happy marriage that we had prior to that.
Okay. Thank you, Jose. Last chance to vote. Last chance to vote on the twosidedtruth.com for this entire topic. Donald, if
Mhm.
birthright citizenship were eliminated tomorrow, what would realistically change?
I think the legislative side of illegal deportations will become less cumbersome because there would be less legislation to hinder, or because um, I think it would be easier. I think it would be easier to deport people. And as far as the other thing is, you wrote that I'm just shuffling papers. I'm acting like that I'm not scribbling. I don't know if you can see this, but I don't play. I actually don't play.
Okay.
I am writing notes. So
All right.
let's get that straight.
Good job,
Um,
Donald.
but as far as our founding fathers, they didn't immigrate. They settled. Illegal immigrants immigrate. There was no Ellis Island. There was no immigration and whatever. There was no agency for that. So they didn't go through that. They came over here. They sailed over here. There was no Statue of Liberty for them to pass through. And when they came here, they conquered. They conquered the people who was here and took their land. But they took the land of people who also conquered people who were already here. So it's not like they just came over and everybody was happy and everything. No, these Indian tribes overran each other. They made slaves out of each other. They killed each other. They took each other's land. So we came over and took their land. No. So no, we settled. Our founding fathers settled. Illegal immigrants come illegally because now there is immigration and customs enforcement. There is a way to come through to this country legally and not illegally. So if, in my opinion, you have what they call unclean hands, you come here and you have a child simply because you want to have a child here as an anchor baby, you have approached our country with unclean hands. Come through a port of entry. Come here legally, because there are other people who have came here legally. Why can't you?
Thank you, Donald. Same question to Jose. If birthright citizenship were eliminated tomorrow, what would realistically change? And I want to say before you begin, last chance to vote on this entire topic, the twosidedtruth.com to vote. Go ahead, Jose.
I don't think much would change other than those children who were born as citizens would no longer be citizens. So you would be adding to those who can be deported. Other than that, Donald's 100% wrong. It wouldn't be less cumbersome. It would be more cumbersome because you would be adding to the roles of those who can be deported. It's not less cumbersome because those children being citizens do not give protection to the parents. Those parents can still be deported. They're being deported right now. We're seeing it with these ICE raids that have been going on all throughout 2025.
Yes.
So again, the idea of anchor babies being a loophole is a ridiculous idea. We've been sold a bill of goods. They offer no protection. Secondly, to say our founding fathers didn't immigrate, they settled, and then they conquered. That's a wonderful euphemism to call them settlers when they conquered, when they killed, when they committed genocide and stole the land. And then to say that there's unclean hands, immigrants come here with unclean hands after our founding fathers came here and stole the land is the height of hypocrisy. That makes no sense at all. That people coming here for better lives, not conquering, have unclean hands, but the people who founded this country, who did conquer, who did commit genocide, those are the ones who have clean hands. And then to say on top of that, with that, when our founding fathers came, we didn't have the Statue of Liberty. Well, now we do have the Statue of Liberty. And on that tablet, It says, give us your huddled masses, you're tired, you're hungry, you're poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. It is a welcome mat. It is a sign that says we have vacancy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we now
legal
have.
vacancy, not illegal vacancy.
That's what
legal.
We now have.
Legal, not illegal.
I love that you keep throwing out the word legal. How is it legal that our founding fathers came here where people already took their land and say that was legal?
The Indians did that to each other. Indian tribes did that to each other. So show me a country that has clean hands.
Yes,
show
Indian nations within this landmass that we call the United States. Yes, they were in war with one another, but they didn't practice chattel slavery that our founding fathers did. Their form of slavery, a slave at that time was basically a prisoner of war. A prisoner of war who, much like the slavery that was practiced in Africa at the time, those people who were slaves had a place within society, had an opportunity to become members of society, to have standing within the society. Chattel slavery here, the way it was practiced by our founding fathers, didn't offer that. So
what is this slavery that you're coming up with? I thought we were talking about
what we did and what Native Americans did.
Immigration
is ridiculous.
Immigration. What does that have to do with immigration?
I'm just responding to what you said. I agree.
No, I said they came over here and
it has nothing to do with immigration. You're right.
But that has nothing to do with immigration.
You're right. That's why, and I'm only responding to what you said.
But
so you're right.
I didn't talk about chattel slavery.
But if we want to go back to immigration, and not even immigration, because that's not the topic. Immigration isn't the topic.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's not the topic.
Immigration isn't the topic. The topic is birthright citizenship. Our Constitution, the founding document of this country, guarantees that right. It is a self-actualizing law in this country, a self-actualizing right, the 14th Amendment, that children born here or naturalized here are citizens.
It should be repealed.
Period. Point blank, period. That is the law. We can say that we don't like it. We can say in our opinions how things have changed, whatever the case may be. We can have partisan political leanings and ideologies one way or the other. It doesn't change what our founding document says. The founding document that we are supposed to base all our laws on says that they are citizens, period.
All right. Okay. All right. Final thoughts.
Yeah.
Final thoughts for the both of you. Donald, I'm going to let you start first. And then Jose, I'm going to let you give your final thoughts. And then we will be done. This is the last chance to vote. Last chance, because this topic will be closed. Donald.
On the subject of birthright citizenship, I think if you want to come to this country, you come legally. If you want to come for the purpose of having a baby and then going back to your country and then having that child later on influence our elections, and that's what some of the Chinese nationals were doing, should be stopped. If you come to this country illegally, you enter illegally, you enter with unclean hands, and you don't attempt to enter this country legally, then you've complicated things for yourself. So fine, let's say birthright citizenship, good. Okay, well then go back to your country, because now we're going to deport you. Well, you don't want to get deported without your child. Okay, well, fine. Now you and your child go. I don't think I'm saying anything that a whole bunch of other Americans are saying. And we're not saying this out of hatred. We're saying this because we are witnessing a grave disservice, not only to us economically, but also to these people that are brought here illegally. Girls are raped, kids are trafficked, people die in the desert. They're extorted. So illegal immigration brings with it a whole bunch of problems. And it also brings not only moral problems, but societal and economic problems that bring America, that adversely affect America financially.
Okay.
And I understand I understand that you have compassion, but you also have to have compassion for us. that's already here.
Thank you for
Go
that,
ahead.
Donald. Jose, final thoughts.
Well, as far as the birthright citizenship topic, the main topic that we're supposed to be discussing, again, we were discussing two different things. I was discussing that and its constitutionality. The wording is abundantly clear. It's a legal document. They are citizens. Point
I
blank.
gave
Period.
you that. I gave you that.
Right.
I gave
Other
you
than that, Donald kept interjecting about his opinion and illegal immigration. It's a different topic. Is it a tangent topic related to this? Sure, but
Okay.
it's still a different topic.
Mm-hmm.
And since you brought it up, I'll touch on the things that
Go
you
ahead.
said.
Go
A whole bunch of Americans are saying, okay, and a whole bunch of other Americans are saying the opposite. It is a logical fallacy. The logical fallacy of ad populum doesn't mean anything. To argue that it increases crime, no.
I didn't say that.
DOJ,
Nope. I
FBI
didn't say that.
stats.
But keep going.
My
Let-
time.
Keep going.
Excuse me.
I
Let
didn't
him
say
My
that.
say
time.
his-
Thank you,
his-
sir.
I didn't say it.
Increasing crimes and problems. That's wrong. FBI stats, DOJ stats, Homeland Security stats all say that immigrants, both undocumented and documented, commit crime at a much lesser rate than natural born Americans.
Okay.
With a societal economic problems, also untrue. They contribute in taxes almost $100 billion a year. They cannot benefit from those illegal immigrants
Okay.
cannot benefit
All right.
from those taxes.
Okay.
So they are a net positive. They help bring
Okay.
prices down. They are a net positive to this country. So if we want to have a different debate about illegal immigration and whether or not the immigrants tend to be a net negative or a net positive, love to have it. That's not what this topic is. But but since it's brought up, they have been a net positive. All the numbers show it.
All right. That's your opinion. Just like
No,
it's my
sir.
opinion.
No, sir. Not my
That's your
opinion. That's not my opinion. DOJ, Homeland Security, FBI stats, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they all say it.
Okay.
It's quite clear in black and white.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Okay.
Is that it, Jose?
Other than that,
Closing
again,
statement?
thank you for having this. Thank you for allowing me to be partnered up with Donald and being on this inaugural launch of your podcast. I think something like this is much needed because, as you all know, as I've debated on your page and all the other conservative pages that I debate on over the years, it tends to be an ish show with nothing but expletives and name calling and all that going on, and being able to exchange ideas and get more of the facts out rather than just hyperbole and the ad hominems. It's a breath of fresh air. So I thank you for allowing me this opportunity.
Thank you so much. All right. So we are closing the polls, and we are complete. And I have to say that our winner for tonight's debate is Jose Rodriguez. Great job, Jose.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone who voted.
Yes, thank you for everyone who voted. Thank you, Jose. Thank you,
Donald, thank you, by the way.
so
I know
much.
we've been at
Thank
it
you.
back and forth over the years quite a
Thank
bit.
you.
So thank you
Yes.
for being on the opposite side here. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much for a wonderful debate. I really appreciate you all taking the time out of your evening to, to bring up probably for the last couple of weeks. I'm not sure, but I know I was back and forth with you to do your research, to bring the facts, taking your time. I appreciate that. Jose, you will have a gift certificate that you can choose from either through the Flipside with Lisa Tracy or the Shy High Apparel. I will be sending, you can look through them. I'll send you the links and you can let me know. Thank you to our sponsors, the Flipside with Lisa Tracy and Shy High Apparel. I appreciate everyone for watching this evening. Next week is the future of work. So please tune in next week. We will have James, he's going to be one of the debaters, and James Manning and Jeff Watts. They're going to be tagging it out regarding, hey, which one is the best? Is it skill-based work? Is it, 4-degree work? And how AI is being incorporated. Is AI taking over? Is it not taking over? So I certainly appreciate you. For those of you all who are interested in debating, please sign up. Go to the two-sidedtruth.com. There is a button that you can push, and it will take you to our debaters forum. Please sign up and come on to debate. We debate on various topics, not just about politics, but social issues, cultural issues, relationships, gender, religion, whatever it is that you could think about you want to debate on, we're here for it. So again, that's the two-sidedtruth.com. I thank you all so much for, our studio audience for taking the time out and coming on. Listen, this was only really supposed to be like a 35-minute debate, but Jose came on and he was like, listen, I don't think we're going to have enough time to really debate this topic because it just goes so deep. So I decided to give it a little bit more time. And I appreciate you all for sticking in with us today. So thank you all so much. This was amazing. And please tune in next Tuesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Take care.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.